Wednesday show. Wednesday show. Wednesday show. Hello, everybody. we I I'm with my friend right now. We're not with my friend. She's not here. But I was texting my friend about the book. I just got the final book. The final everything about the book is in my, well, it's not physically in my hands, but we have the digital copy of the book is literally, here's the screen for the broadcast, and then it's right next to it, which is so exciting right now. So yeah, we have exciting things going on right now with books, with book news and all of the other stuff. So how's everyone doing though? Are you guys doing good? Hopefully everyone's doing well. Our first minute is always a slow minute, so don't worry. We will have more people join as we go on here. How are you doing today, Dapper Vanta Crew? You doing good? You just got back. I was just at Magic Kingdom too. Today I went on. What did I do today? I got some ice cream. I watched the Main Street Philharmonic. I watched, did Country Bear Musical Jamboree. I did People Mover. I did People Mover. I feel like there was at least one more attraction that I did, but now I'm drawing a blank on what else I did today. Hello, Christina. How you doing? So, for those of you guys who missed my early ramble, I'm really excited because literally just minutes before the show, I got the entire digital copy of the book. Literally, like, not even 10 minutes ago. It is all in my inbox. I'm good. I'm really this has me so excited right now. Ooh, not bad. So I don't have the physical copy with me, but I have the digital copy. So here, let me should we do this real quick here? Let's do it this way. This makes it a little bit more exciting. We're going to give you just a sneak peek, just the smallest sneak peek right now of the exciting things that I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And kerblamo. So this right here, guys, is the official digital copy of the book. Is literally in my hands. The publisher literally just sent it to me 10 minutes ago. So I thought you had a physical copy. So I will have the physical copy within my hands within the next. It comes down to when the artist has finished the front cover. That is the only thing we're waiting on right now. As soon as that happens, the book is going to print, and it sounds like it should be that the front cover should be ready within the next few days here. So it's getting exciting. But yeah, this is legit the first full digital copy of the book, and I am so happy because here's the thing: is when you are writing these books, I do not know what the full page count will be when it actually gets transferred to an actual book. So just to give you an idea, if you look at the amount of pages here, what's wrong with that one? It's just an old book. It's all tattered. But if you go through each one of these books, when I started doing a closer look at the Magic Kingdom's Fantasyland, this is going to be here. Before we even get into our full show here, we're doing a whole. You know what? No. Let's do an intro and then we're going to do this. Okay, so let's start the 799th episode of the Wednesday Show in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 799th episode of the Wednesday Show. Today is December 11th, 2024, and I'm your host, as always, Brent Dodge. Hello. Today we're going to be talking all about Disney. We're not sure exactly what the topic is yet, but we have other exciting things to talk about. So we're just going to get into this part right now. But of course, before we get to anything, let's talk about our news for the week. First off, thank you everyone out there who's been joining us for our Saturday in the Park. If you didn't already know, every single Saturday we do a live broadcast from someplace found throughout the Walt Disney World Resort. You never know where we're going to be broadcasting live from, but I promise you we will always be coming to you live from Disney. So make sure you join us every single Saturday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. And of course, as we go through here, if we get more subscribers, we are starting off at 8,160. I know what you're thinking. Last week, we got up to 8,162. Yes, you are correct. But YouTube sent this thing out. We explained it last week. But they are doing this purge of people who are either bots or they are people who have been inactive on their YouTube channel for a long enough time that they're getting rid of accounts. So unfortunately, the month of December is not treating me well. I think we're up like 6 subscribers total since December 1st, when usually we go up at least, like if I don't hit 100 in a month, I'm like, what happened this month? This month, we might hit 10 at the rate we're going. Well, I'm still trying to hit that 10,000 subscribers. So if you guys know 1,840 people, you want to send them over as well. And of course, as always, tonight's episode is sponsored by our Patreon pals. Thank you to our Patreon pals out there for supporting tonight's show. If you are one of our Patreon pals out in the chat room right now, give us an oh yeah. Okay, so before we even get into the topic of tonight, I'm just excited about the book news. And if you guys did not join us earlier, or if you missed all the excitement of the first minute here, I want to talk a little bit about the book because I've been working on it for 14 months. It's been a long 14 months of a lot of work, a lot of sleepless nights, and I am so excited that our vision and our dream of getting this book out is so close. It is so close to being reality, and I am at the point now where I'm like, Dinoland, part of Dinoland closes in exactly 34 days. We should have it so people can have a copy of that book in their hands in Dinoland, USA, as long as everything goes right for them. So I'm hoping that is going to be what the situation is going to be. I'm hoping that some of you who are watching right now will have the opportunity to be in Dinoland, holding a copy of the book, walking through and taking in all the details of the entire area. So let's talk a little bit about this book, how everything led up to this book, and how, because this is just kind of a crazy thing here. So first off, quick preview. I started off my entire journey 15 years ago with the From Screen to Theme book, which actually came out, it was almost 14 and a half years ago, 14 years and 3 months ago, 9 months ago. But before that, I started this podcast because I started wanting to talk about Disney, and I just want to, talk about the book and get people excited about the book. And afterwards, I moved down here the same day that this book was released, which was March 1st, 2010. So I moved down here and I started going to Disney every single day. And I still go to Disney every single day. But while I was doing that, I started to work on a website a little bit more, my own personal website. I worked on that a little bit more. And while I was doing that, I started to play with different ideas of what we could do talking about Disney. And I would have different games on there. I'd have different articles. I had this whole section called the Days of the Week where I had 5 other writers and myself would go through and we would write an article for each day of the week. And then I had one section on there which was called A Closer Look. And the closer look section was not too simple, but it was simple, if that makes sense. And what it would do is I started to realize that if you go onto Google and you write like, give me a fun fact about Restaurantosaurus, usually you wouldn't find too much things about Restaurantosaurus except for the food. And that was about it. Like they didn't talk about the storyline, they didn't talk about the fun facts, they didn't talk about anything. So I kind of started saying, oh, you know what? It'd be kind of cool to have it so in my website, everyone talks about, Mickey's PhilharMagic or Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean, what have you. They go through and talk about all those different things in detail, but not many people talk about details of the shops, about the restaurants, about the overall land. And so I started to have it so on my website, I started to do that stuff. And then my brother, who is not a big Disney fan, like he'll come down with his kids and he enjoys it when he's here. But as soon as he leaves, he's not, too interested. But he's supportive, and he was on my website one time, and he called me up and he said, "Listen, I was on your website, and some of your stuff I don't really care for." He's an honest brother, but I really like your closer look section. He goes, "That's actually really interesting to me because I'm learning so much more from those closer looks, and it could become a whole book." And I was like, "Oh, it could become a whole book." So I started to kind of go through and try to figure out if I could do an entire book of just a closer look at the Magic Kingdom. And I said, you know what? I think that book would be too big. So maybe I should just do one about Fantasyland because it's my favorite land and I might as well start there. And I started writing. I wasn't sure how deep into details people would want to go when they would go through about this. But I came out with a closer look at the Magic Kingdom's Fantasyland. And in there, we go into quite a bit of detail about everything, but we didn't go into a whole lot of detail. So then I said, you know what? I want to continue this because I really like writing these types of books about going into these deep dives about specific lands, attractions, what have you. And so I said, okay, maybe we'll do one about Liberty Square. So my next book, A Closer Look at the Magic Kingdom's Liberty Square, went into even more detail. This book became a little bit longer than the previous one. It sits at 119 pages of just pure details. And I said, oh, you know what? I love that. But let's go into the next land. And in the next land, I started to realize that people were actually paying attention to the deep dive. Like I realized from Fantasyland to Liberty Square, yes, I can go into even more details without boring the people. So going from Liberty Square to Frontierland, I went into even more details. And then this book would end up being 132 actual pages, but it was actually 150 pages of everything. But that does include things like the blank page at the end, or the blank page at the end, or the about the author. So when I started to go through that stuff, I realized that, yes, we can go into more detail. And if you did not watch my video from about a year ago, in a video, I talked about how Dinoland was closing. I was heartbroken. I literally went over, I was here. I heard the announcement. And I literally picked up my keys. I drove straight to Dinoland. And while walking through Dinoland, I said, I need to go through and write this book about Dinoland. And I need to have it so I go into even more detail than what I did for Frontierland. Frontierland took a long time to research because I went into like literally every single little detail that I could find inside that land. And I went through the backstory, why it's there, how it's connected to everything else. And for Dinoland, I wanted to take a step up again because Frontierland's a pretty big land. Dinoland's a little bit smaller. Frontierland had, at the time, 5 attractions. We had the Frontierland Shooting Arcade, Country Bear Jamboree, Tom Sawyer Island, Splash Mountain, and Big Bear Mountain Railroad. While Dinoland only has 3 attractions or technically 4, with the Boneyard, Dinosaur, Triceratops Spin, and then the Fossil Fun Games. So I started to have it so I went into more and more detail about Dinoland, and I was not sure for this entire time. I was like, I don't know how long the book is going to be because my Word document does not add up to the same page level as what this would. So I sent the book to the publisher a few weeks ago. I got a thing back from the publisher today, literally like 10 minutes before we started doing this broadcast. And it's the entire book. And now, for the first time ever, I know how long this book is. But before I say how long it is, I want you guys to guess it, because this one, 150 pages altogether from start to finish. Dino Land is a little bit, I'm not going to say how long, but it's longer than this. So I want you guys' guesses in the chat room right now. How long do you think our Dino Land book is officially? Like, this is officially official. Everything that's written will not be, it can't be changed. It's in the publishing state right now, which is absolutely insane to me. But how many pages? We got some guesses here. 211 is a little too high. 176 is a little too small. It is somewhere between 176 and 211. Our grand total is, drumroll please, a 185 pages of pure deep dive look at Dino Land USA. 185 pages of, you know what, let's do this too. Let's take a look. 185. Ding, ding, ding. I don't know if that was you repeating it or you just saying it. This is also going to be our back cover of the book. This is not a picture. This is just, I have it on my phone. No. Undo. How is Dinosaur connected to Test Track? Why is the Styracosaurus so prominent in Dino Land USA? And who exactly are Chester and Hester? Dive into a closer look at Disney's Animal Kingdom's Dino Land USA to uncover the answers to these questions and so much more. This book takes you on a journey through the history, stories, fun facts, and hidden details of every attraction, shop, and restaurant in this unique and fascinating land. And that, my friends, is the back cover of the book. Everything is falling into place, and I am so excited. I am so unbelievably excited about everything that's happening right now. But yeah, so anyways, what do you guys want to the show? That was like the longest intro we've ever had to the show. Oh, I'm very excited right now. I'm very, very excited, if you could not tell. I have been working very hard on this book. I cannot wait to have it so we go into so much more detail about everything, to have it so I'm just one of my friends and I went out to the parks Saturday. And while we were leaving, she asked me, she said, how does it feel? Like, how do you get to the point where you're like, this is it? Like, you're letting the book go. And I said, it's a really weird feeling, because if I wanted to, I could continue writing Dino Land book for ages. I can go into so much more detail about like little tiny itsy bitsy little things. But at the same time, some of those itsy bitsy tiny little things, I think I would care about more than anyone else would care about. And also then it would be like a 7,000 page book. So at one point you have to say, okay, have I included everything that makes this storyline what it is? Like, does everything connect to the entire storyline, to the history that I talked about? As long as those two things are completely established and completely tied together from start to finish of each chapter, and then from each chapter connecting it to the overall storyline that is established at the very start of the book, is it worth it? So, okay, let's do one more little thing, because I'm just on a roll right now and I'm feeling really good right now. Let's do a little bit of let's see here. We got the acknowledgments, we got the introduction. We read the introduction last week. What can we read? I want to read something, because I'm just hyped up right now. I was gonna say we could do the story, but the story would take a long time to read. Let's do the about the author. We could do the about the author. Brent Dodge is a self-proclaimed Disney nerd that has spent over 5,000 days inside the Disney parks as a guest. In addition to the success of his first 4 books and being the host of a podcast award-nominated show, The Wednesday Show, Brent has won a 2-day, 4-park scavenger hunt hosted by Disney and was also a semifinalist in a Disney-hosted trivia event. Originally from Delafield, Wisconsin, Brent currently resides in Orlando, Florida, where he visits the parks daily. All true stuff. Okay, let's figure out. Yeah, Platinum Patreon Pals, you guys will get the book for free. So if you're one of our Patreon Pal people out there, you will get the book for free. I will be sending another thing on Patreon within the next few days here, actually asking for addresses so we can just send it directly to each one of you. Yeah, this has become just a long talk about the book. Okay, let's go to you guys. Let's give you guys 3 options on what our show is going to be about tonight, and then we will decide on which one you want to have it. So we go through and do our episode about. So I do see some questions in here like, what do you think of Mufasa? I'm excited for Mufasa. I'm not like insanely excited about Mufasa, but yeah, I'm excited about Mufasa. I was going to go to the event. D23's got an event on Monday, but I just had something else going on Monday, so I was unfortunately not allowed to get there. Will Romeo McGraw get a new walk-around character, but outfit changes similar to Shaker's walk-around character? I don't know if I kind of feel like Romeo will not be doing walk-arounds anytime in the near future, but I feel like maybe at some point we will. Will it be autographed? Yes. Every single person who buys the book directly from me will get an autographed copy of the books. However, I do want you guys to know here. Let me do my autograph. This is legit my signature in everyday life. I just signed my Frontierland book. This is legit my signature in everyday life. And one time I had someone who asked why there was just a marking underneath my name in my book and sent him an autograph, and I was like, no, that's my signature for everything. It's literally, so it's a B at the side, and there's an R, and then it's the cursive N, and then a T. So it's a terrible signature, but I legit, like, people at work are like, they're not going to take you seriously, but it is literally just anyone can forge it, but at the same time, it's a little unique, but not completely unique. I have had a few people. One of my friends a few years ago signed me up for an event with Disney where she's a cast member. She could get people into the event for free. And she came out to me and she said, hey, I need your signature for this event. And I said, okay. And I signed it. And her response was, no, they need a real signature. And I was like, that is my real signature. And she goes, they're not going to accept this. And I was like, no, they will. I was like, it's my signature. It's on my driver's license. That is what it looks like on my driver's license. And they never gave her any problems. They're like, oh, some people's signature is just literally a little scribble. It saves a lot of time too. So I have thought about like doing, when I first wrote my first book From Screen to Theme, I had more of a like pronounced B, and then people were saying that my handwriting was childlike, and it is. My handwriting is terrible. And so then I was like, well, I'm just going to go back to my actual scribble that I usually have. Okay, let's. What was your favorite song from Country Bear Musical Jamboree? I like Try Everything. I think that's just a fun one. Although I do like it's a Country Bear Musical Jamboree. A toe tapping jamboree. I actually watched that show today. Okay, let's go through and do. Let's play a game. Just because we could do a deep dive. Do you guys want to do it? Okay. We only have 35 minutes of the show left. I've been rambling on and on from our intro for the last 25 minutes. We could either have it so we do a quick deep dive into something, whether an attraction, a land, whatever. I just answered. Did you not get that part? I'm excited for the movie, but I just won't be able to watch it for a few weeks. Connect the dots. I like the idea of connect the dots. Let's play a game of connect the dots. Frank fam, you get 1 gold star for your suggestion today. Oh wait, so if you've never played a game of connect the dots with us before, this is how a game of connect the dots works. So what you guys are going to be doing is you are going to be throwing a bunch of random things about anything and everything Disney into the comments. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to connect each item with the next item on that list. However, the one rule and the one rule only is, well, I guess there's a few rules, but the most important rule is if you say the first thing. So let's say Frank Fam 06 says Mickey Mouse. Frank Fam 06 is not allowed to write something else on there until someone else has added something for the Connect the Dots game. So it can't be just one person going through and listing off 15 things. If you do list off more than one thing in a row, you will only have it so the first thing will be counted, and then we're going to skip the other suggestions and go to whatever the next one is, and then maybe we'll make our way back to the thing, but then after the second person comments, then you have a chance to throw your things in there. Second rule, we cannot have the same item over and over and over again. So if it's Mickey Mouse, you can't say Mickey Mouse and then say Mickey Mouse and then say Mickey Mouse and then say Mickey Mouse. And yeah, let's do this. Okay, so we're going to play a game of Connect the Dots for the next 35 minutes. Start throwing those items down. It can be anything and everything Disney. We're going to go through and connect anything and everything all together. I was actually thinking about Connect the Dots earlier today while I wait for you guys to throw your things in. Where I was like, oh, like that's such a cool little connection that most people don't think about, and now I can't think of what it was. Okay, we got things coming in here. So let's start off with, it's the Country Bear Musical Jamboree. Okay, so the Country Bear Musical Jamboree just opened up this year. Now, previously, before that, it was the Country Bear Jamboree, which opened up on October 1st, 1971, and eventually would open up over in Disneyland on March 24th, 1972. So when it opened up over in Disneyland, it actually had 2 completely different theaters. So you could go in and you could watch the exact same show, but they figured that because the attraction was popular in Walt Disney World, it was also going to be popular in Disneyland, which was mostly true for the first about 10, 15 years. And then it slowly started to fade away in popularity over in Disneyland. But it did have those 2 different theaters, but slowly and surely, it would close up over in Disneyland to make way for the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Now, this was not the first time that the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh would take over a spot where a previous Disney attraction was. Also, over the Magic Kingdom, we had it so the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh in Fantasyland would take the place of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Now, there are still a few different spots where you can actually find the reference to Mr. Toad's Wild Ride found within both the Magic Kingdom and on the ride. First off, when you're actually on the ride, if you take a look at the left-hand side, you can find Mr. Toad handing the deed over to Owl in Owl's house on the wall. And then if you take a look on the ground, you can also find a picture of Molly along with Winnie the Pooh in front of the tree house. And then in addition to those 2 things, when you are over in the Haunted Mansion exit area, you can also find a tombstone for Mr. Toad. And that tombstone says, "Here lies Toad, sad but true, much less profitable than Pooh." So, in addition to the tombstone there for Mr. Toad, who has sadly passed away from the Magic Kingdom, if you also go around the tombstone area, you can find different things like a snake that has no, not a snake. There is a snake, but they also have like a cat that has 9 lives, and on the 9 lives, it actually has each year that the cat died, which I think is like one of the most clever details that most people just walk on by, and I'm like, look at what's in front of you. In addition to that, we do have the other tombstones that can be found in the queue line. Now, those ones are mostly all nods to different Imagineers that have worked on attractions like the Haunted Mansion, or all of them actually did work on Haunted Mansion, but a few of them might seem familiar if you're walking down Main Street, USA. I'm walking right down the middle of Main Street, USA, because on both the left and the right-hand side of Main Street, USA, you can also find several different people who were instrumental of actually creating the entire Walt Disney World Resort. So you can find people like Mark Davis has a tombstone. He also has a window on Main Street, USA. Exitencio has a tombstone. He also has a window on Main Street, USA. And then, of course, Yale Gracie has a tombstone, Mr. Gracie, and he also has one up on Main Street, USA. While you're also walking around on Main Street, USA, some of the other most famous people you can find on there are people like Walt Disney and Roy Disney. Now, Roy Disney also has it, so in addition to his window, there is the Sharing the Magic statue that can be found on Main Street, USA. Right now, it is found over by Town Square Center, or I'm sorry, no, over by the, sometimes it's over there, but right now it is over by City Hall, which is the guest relations spot. And there it is a statue of him kind of off to the right hand side with Minnie in the middle of a bench. And then the left hand side of the bench is open for people to sit on and get pictures with them. Now, this is called Sharing the Magic because it is a nod to both Roy and Minnie Mouse being the backbones of Walt and Mickey Mouse. Because if it was not for the two of them, the other two never had their superstardom. So they are sharing the magic with one another and with all of us. So in addition to the story about those two, one of my favorite things about this is another Blaine Gibson thing that he created. Blaine Gibson was one of the most famous people to go through and work on several different characters, or I'm sorry, different sculptures found on different characters in different attractions. He would work on characters like all the presidents, not really characters, but Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, over at the Hall of Presidents. He would also work on characters at the Haunted Mansion and at Pirates of the Caribbean. During Pirates of the Caribbean, he would actually work very closely with one of the seamstresses whose name was Alice Davis. She is the wife of Mark Davis. Now, Mark Davis is one of those people we have talked about in a lot of different things throughout the years, but he was not just a great Imagineer, but he was also a great animator who worked on characters like Tinkerbell and Cruella de Vil. So talking about Cruella de Vil, Cruella de Vil, if she doesn't scare you, no evil thing will. Cruella de Vil, of course, is for the 101 Dalmatians. She was also portrayed by Glenn Close in the live-action remake and the live-action remake sequel, 102 Dalmatians. In addition to that, Glenn Close has actually appeared in a lot of different Disney things, but one of the most famous ones in recent times is the attraction Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, found over at Epcot. Now, while you were there, she is the person who actually introduces us into the entire attraction. But let's talk a little bit about the attraction itself. Because after you go through the pre-show, you go into the second pre-show. And after you go through that second pre-show, you go out a door and you start heading towards the hallway that takes you over to your escape pods. Now, while you're going there, on the wall directly in front of you, you will find a map of the entire ship that you are currently aboard. And if you take a look at the bottom of it, on the far left side of the mill, if that makes sense, you will find a little emblem for the Universe of Energy. That was the attraction that sat there before. That's the attraction that sat there before Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. It was Ellen's Energy Adventure. You guys remember it? In Ellen's Energy Adventure, Ellen DeGeneres, along with Bill Nye the Science Guy, went back into the past to the Piggy Bank? No. The Ding Ding? No, the Big Bang. Bill Nye the Science Guy actually appeared in several different things with Disney throughout the years, including Ellen's Energy Adventure. He also was the host of Bill Nye the Science Guy, the television series, which was on PBS, but it was actually an ABC television product. Confusing, I know, but just bear with me. So in addition to those two things, he could also be found over at Cyberspace Mountain, which was a thing that was over at Disney Quest. In addition to that, you could also find him at the Innoventions building. He was the original person who would introduce you into the area after Tom Morrow 2.0 would introduce you to the area. And then the final product that he worked on for Disney was actually Dinosaur over at Disney's Animal Kingdom. Now, he's actually the narrator while you're walking through the lobby area with the massive Carnotaurus in front of you. Now, Dinoland USA, which you guys are going to read a lot about in the coming up months here, but Dinoland USA did have a long, elaborate history, but it's always been part of the original concept art for the entire park. Now, one of the things that did take the Imagineers by surprise, though, was they knew that they're going to have Dinoland USA. They also knew they're going to have Discovery Island. It was going to be called Genesis originally. And then they would also have a land called Africa. Those were the main three areas that they completely had a solid idea of, but they did not really expect that the safari was going to become as big and popular as it did become. I mean, they knew it was going to be popular, but they just not expected to become that insanely popular. It became so popular that they decided that they needed to have it, so they expanded the area by creating a brand new hotel, which was, of course, Animal Kingdom Lodge. Now, Animal Kingdom Lodge does pay tribute to a lot of the different things that are found in Africa over at Disney's Animal Kingdom. Hold up, I don't even know what the next one is. Okay, I got the next one. By the way, we are playing the game Connect the Dots for those people who are just joining us right now. We are connecting what you guys are putting in the chat room with the next thing that you guys put in the chat room, and we are running low on things. So keep on throwing your things in there. Again, all you need is one other person to put another thing in before we go to the next one. So if you are not Christine, you can put another one in right now. Okay, let's keep on going here. So Animal Kingdom Lodge opened up in the early 2000s, and it allowed people to have the Savannah View rooms, taking a look out at all the different animals that are found out on the reserve. Now, this was not going to be the first time that we would actually have an entire thing that was themed around a lodge feel. Disney would also have one that came out in the earlier 1990s, which would be Wilderness Lodge, which is found over by Bay Lake. Now, Wilderness Lodge takes people on a scenic journey into the wilderness. It's amazing. I love it. It is my favorite Disney resort, followed closely by Animal Kingdom Lodge. But with Wilderness Lodge, there is a long, elaborate history, which we're not going to go completely into, but we will have to touch on a few different things about it in order for us to get to our next thing. So let's do a little bit of talking. Because when Wilderness Lodge first came out, they would go through and try to figure out exactly how this thing was going to connect with its next door neighbor, besides just having a trail go from one spot to a next spot. Now, in 1971, shortly after the Magic Kingdom would open up, we would have, actually it was 50 days to be exact, after the Magic Kingdom opened up, we would get a brand new thing called the Fort Wilderness Campground. And then the campground became popular enough that they said maybe people who also want to have that wilderness feel could also stay in a nice luxury resort, and that's how they came up with the idea of Wilderness Lodge. Now, the two of them were connected with this nice long walking trail, which I used to love. However, a few years ago, they decided they're going to go through and build a new resort along that walking trail, and when they did that, they got rid of that path, and then the construction had to stop because of 2020 being an absolutely insane year, and because of that, we just never got the new resort, and we also never got our walking trail back. And I still, to this day, very, very sad. Also, if you guys are out there and you are still trying to figure out what you want to write next, I highly suggest writing it soon, because I am going to get to the next one pretty soon, and otherwise the game is just going to end. So keep on throwing your ideas out into the comments. But anyways, so over at Fort Wilderness Campground, there was a lot of different things that were found over there when the park first opened up. Not only did we have the campgrounds, but we also had it so you could go around and sing amazing songs with characters like Chip and Dale, and you could have it so they had a campfire. We'd also have different movies under the stars. You'd have archery lessons, canoe lessons, and so much more. At one point, there was actually a train that went around the entire resort too. You can actually still find different remnants of this train in the area. I'll have to, there's a video that I've done out there about it, but that's besides the point. So in addition to all this really cool stuff, at the northern part of the property, we also had the one, the only, the very first Disney water park called River Country. Now, River Country was one of my favorite things that I've ever done. Not really, I'm just saying that. I have one memory of River Country and one memory only. I remember us getting to River Country one day, and then all of a sudden there was lightning in the area, and they would not let us into River Country. However, I went there. I just don't have any memories of it because I was too young when we went there. But River Country was an area that had several different water slides, several different wave pools, tube slides, swinging ropes, and a whole lot more. Overall, it looks like one of the most fun places that you could have ever gone to, and absolutely no rules whatsoever. So going through River Country, eventually they would say, you know what, River Country is a very popular thing, but in 1989, they decided that maybe they can step it up a little notch, because yes, River Country is great, but what if we have not just one park, but two water parks? So Disney would open up their second park in 1989, which would be Typhoon Lagoon. Now, Typhoon Lagoon would have it so there was going to be this massive, elaborate storyline that was taking place with, every time we talk about Typhoon Lagoon, I have to say it, there once was a storm that roared across the sea, catching ships in its path, helpless to flee. Instead of a certain and watery doom, the Wind swept them here to Typhon Lagoon. Now, at the very top of Mount Mayday, the mountain that's found in the top center of the entire area, you can find a ship up there, which is the Miss Tilly. Now, the Miss Tilly is one of the boats that originally, according to the storyline, was docked over at Pleasure Island. Now, Pleasure Island does have an elaborate storyline that would go hand in hand with Typhoon Lagoon, and unfortunately, a lot of it disappeared when Disney Springs decided to go through that massive update and become a lot of different stuff. But unfortunately, it would not be the elaborate storyline that we used to have at Pleasure Island. But let's talk a little bit about the storyline of Pleasure Island in order to get us to our next location here. Now, Pleasure Island was named after Meriwether Pleasure, a fictional character that Disney created specifically for the storyline of Pleasure Island. So if you would go out to Pleasure Island, there were so many different things that he collected along his travels around the world, including Lombard Street, aka the windy street that is found on in San Francisco, famous for one, a tourist trap, but probably even more famous for Herbie the Love Bug riding down it in the 1969 film The Love Bug. In addition to that, I'm just going to talk about Herbie whenever I get a chance. In addition to that, we had a fireworks factory and a whole lot more. And I had a connection that I was going to get to, and now I completely lost it because I made a joke at myself. But one of the things that most people would go through, I remember how to connect that. One of the things that people would go through and they would confuse when they would talk about Pleasure Island, specifically back in the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s, 2010s, every person would always confuse it for the fact that Pleasure Island was named after Pleasure Island from Pinocchio. But that is not true. Actually, the first time that we ever saw Pleasure Island from Pleasure Island and Pinocchio would be in 1985, where you guys could actually travel to it in the attraction Pinocchio's Daring Journey, found over in Fantasyland in Disneyland. This was going to be part of the massive expansion, or not even expansion, but a massive renovation that Disneyland was doing with the land. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's kind of weird. They did a massive renovation over the land. They've actually done this several times, specifically in Disneyland for some reason. Over in Disneyland, Tomorrowland's got an update, and then it's got another update, and it's also got another update throughout the years, updating everything throughout the land and updating the entire storyline going through the land. In 1985, we had Fantasyland go through a massive update. Before that, you did have all of the different like carnival type atmosphere with the tents and stuff that we can find over at Peter Pan's Flight and Small World over in Walt Disney World Magic Kingdom. Over there, that used to be like that in Fantasyland too, but then they went through a massive update. In addition to that, over in Frontierland, that would be updated to Bear Country, which would be updated to Critter Country, and now it is updated to Bayou Country. So that's gone through a lot of different updates throughout the years as well. Now, the most recent one obviously has it, so we have Princess and the Frog taking the place of Splash Mountain. Now, Splash Mountain would be created from an elaborate idea that Tony Baxter had while driving when America the Beautiful, or no, oh wait, what's it called? Oh my gosh, that was on such a good roll. America the Beautiful, yes, would be closing up over in Disneyland. So there was this amazing attraction that was created specifically for the celebration of the bicentennial of America, and it featured all these different animals, Sam the Eagle, etc., etc. It's not Sam the Eagle from Muppets, but just a different Sam the Eagle. And they would go through and they would sing all these different songs that were American songs, and then they would, it was just a jolly old time. Now, while they were planning on closing that one up, Tony Baxter was trying to figure out exactly how he could go through and take those characters and reuse them for a new attraction. He came up with the idea of Splash Mountain. Now, again, Tomorrowland would go through all these different changes with things like this closing down. We also had things like Carousel of Progress was there at one time. Autopia was a lot bigger at one point, which is even crazier because Autopia is also really massive still inside. We used to have House of the Future. And I mean, if you just kind of go through, there's so many different phases of Tomorrowland in Disneyland that it's tough to really pay attention to when and where things would change. However, we will always know in 2008 what it looked like, because if you go and watch the movie Meet the Robinsons, you can see Todayland, which is based off of Tomorrowland, when they first enter into the future. Now, if you've never seen Meet the Robinsons, the entire storyline focuses around a boy genius who has to travel to the future to help out a kid from this guy who has stolen a time machine. That guy who stole the time machine is none other than the bowler hat guy. Now, the bowler hat guy is hands down one of the greatest characters of all time. He would go through, and his original name would be Goob. Goob! And Goob was the child roommate of Cornelius. Long storyline. When you watch the movie, you're gonna be like, everyone's name changes like 7 times, but it actually all makes sense. And it doesn't make sense, but it does make sense. But if you ever watch that movie and you take a look at the very end of it, when we get to the baseball game that Goob is playing at, in the background, you can find posters for 2 different Disney movies, one of them being Toy Story 2. I'm going to save on to the other one just in case we have to use it later on. Toy Story 2 was a crazy storyline of how it actually got to the theaters, because originally when Disney and Pixar teamed up, Disney did not own Pixar. However, they owned the rights to the movies and their sequels. So originally when Disney and Pixar were teaming up for Toy Story and then eventually A Bug's Life, Disney said, hey, guess what? We actually own the rights to the characters of Buzz Lightyear, Woody, and all the other toys, so we might as well make a direct-to-video sequel. So they started going through and creating a direct-to-video sequel called Toy Story 2, and Pixar said, whoa, 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 how about we team up together and we're going to have it so this movie can actually be in the big screen as well. And that's actually how Toy Story 2 became what it is. It originally was going to have a completely different storyline, and then Pixar kind of swooped in and said, no, we'll still make Toy Story 2 if you guys give us the funding to have it on the big screen. But that's also how we got things like Buzz Lightyear Star Command. Now, Buzz Lightyear Star Command, of course, would inspire different attractions like Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters, there's a lot of Buzz Lightyear rides around the world, but it would also be the stepping stone that Disney needed to create another attraction called Toy Story Mania. Not Toy Story Mania or Toy Story Midway Mania, as it's been known too. Toy Story Midway Mania would go through and have it so you would go through and play several different games by having an interactive string. Now, this would not be the first time in Disney World where you would actually have it so there would be interactive characters from a different company coming in. I mean, obviously, we had things like characters from Indiana Jones were there. All the characters pretty much from the Great Movie Ride were from MGM originally. And then, of course, we also had like Muppets from Muppet Vision 3D. Now, Muppets from Muppet Vision 3D would also be in a lot. Oh my gosh, I'm going to kick myself. I read this as Muppet Treasure Island, and I was trying to get to Muppet Treasure Island this entire time. Oh, now I just reread it, and I actually have a connection, but I left it like a mile ago. We can still use the Muppets together. Oh, that's so funny. I just need to drink real quick. Okay. So it's so funny. I had 0 clue. So we're still on the bowler hat guy. We're making our way to the treasure of Matsukumbe. So we'll just say Disney did so many different, or the Muppets did a lot of different films. Like I think it's just so funny that I completely misread that the entire time, and like I just because I just been glancing the chat room. I'm like, oh, okay, Muppet Treasure Island, I can get there. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute, maybe not. That just cracks me up. Anyways, so the Muppets had great things like the Muppet movie, the Great Muppet Caper, Muppets Take Manhattan, and of course, Muppet Treasure Island. Now, this would not be the first time that Disney would have movies that dealt with treasure and pirates. It's not going to be the last one either. Of course, we had things like Pirates of the Caribbean. We also had things like the Treasure of Matsukumbe. We're just going that route because it's going to make life a whole lot easier. But that still was not going to be the first treasure hunt that Disney ever created. The first one that they would ever create was actually going to be their first ever solely live-action film, which was Treasure Island. Now, where are we going to from here? Okay, so going from Treasure Island. So Treasure Island would be it would be starring Bobby Driscoll as a young Jim Hawkins. If Bobby Driscoll sounds like a familiar name to you, well, then you're probably familiar with other early films like Peter Pan. He was the voice of Peter Pan. And also So Dear to My Heart, where he was in So Dear to My Heart. Also Song of the South, where he was in Song of the South. He was in a lot of different things. In fact, he was actually the first ever actor that was under a complete contract with Disney. Now, there are so many other different characters that have been in a sole contract with Disney. Some of them are really famous, like Fred MacMurray, Tommy Kirk. Maybe these people aren't as famous to a lot of other people, but to me they're like insanely famous. And then other ones are like megastars that most people know to this day. People like Kurt Russell. I was like trying to figure out what his name was. Kurt Russell, who had a long-standing contract with Disney from an early age. In fact, it is a long rumored thing that the last thing that Walt Disney ever said on his deathbed was the name Kurt Russell. That actually is 100% true. Kurt Russell's even gone through and tried to figure out why he said it. People ask him about it and things all the time, and he says, I don't know why Walt Disney was talking about me at the end. However, if you go back and watch a live feature of Walt Disney's last on-screen appearance, a lot of people think was the Epcot film was the last thing that he ever filmed. That was the last thing to air with him that was created specifically for film. But the last thing he ever filmed was an intro for a Kurt Russell film called Follow Me, Boys. Follow me, boys, follow me. You can't say that thing. You can't talk about the movie without singing the song. Anyways, in Follow Me, Boys, it stars Kurt Russell along with Fred MacMurray, and they are at a summer camp together. Now, this was not going to be the only time that we would actually see a reference to Follow Me, Boys found anywhere in Disney. If you actually go to the Magic Kingdom and you head to the Main Street train station and you take a look at the arriving and exiting trains, they have switched a lot throughout the years, and they still actually switch today because it is a digital board. However, sometimes, not always, but sometimes you will see that they are going to Simmons Valley, which is a nod to Lemuel Simmons, the character that Fred MacMurray played. Now, that is not the only little thing that you can find there on the board. You can also find different references to things like Pollyanna. We've got Pendergast Avenue, which is one of the characters in the film. We also have Harrington, which is the Glad town from the film. In addition to that, we also have references to people like Mark Davis, and we've talked about Mark Davis a lot tonight, Walt Disney, Roger Broggie, and so many other classic people who've been Disney legends throughout the years. However, it also has a reference to a few different things that are found over in Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, including Rainbow Caverns. Now, Rainbow Caverns was the original mine train. It was mine train through Rainbow Caverns found over in Disneyland, and then eventually Big Thunder Mountain Railroad would take the place of that location. There's been a lot of long history over there in that area. Actually, if you go to most of Disneyland, there's a lot of really rich history about things just kind of turning over. Right now, if you switch anything in any Disney ride, people are going to be complaining about it on the internet like crazy. But if you go back to Walt's time, he was switching things up like every 2 or 3 months. Like, yeah, I don't like this. Let's get rid of this and put this in here instead. He would go through a lot of different changes, but a lot of different things on some of his favorite attractions would pretty much stay the same because he loved them so much. This would include things like the Disneyland Railroad and, of course, the Jungle Cruise. Now, the Jungle Cruise was actually Walt Disney's favorite attraction of all time. He said it himself, and he absolutely adored it. He would go on it quite often, and that is one of the things that he would actually do is he would walk down his apartment steps and go straight to the Jungle Cruise because it was literally right out the back door. So when he would go on the Jungle Cruise, he liked a lot of different people, including Sam the Headhunter, who would be the Trader Sam's inspiration for the bar, both in Disneyland and here at Walt Disney World's Polynesian. Now, if you go over to the Polynesian Resort, there's going to be a lot of different really cool things that are found there, including pictures of the Bob Around boat. I don't know why we're going to talk about the Bob Around boat. I just like to talk about the Bob Around boat, so let's talk about the Bob Around boat. The Bob Around boat was a boat that would take people inside of it, and you would literally just bob around. It was the most ridiculously made boat that I've ever seen in my life. It does not exist anymore, but I always wished it did. If you actually go to the Polynesian lobby, you can actually find a picture of the Bob Around boat there in the alleyway. In addition to that, you can also find pictures of different movies like Castaway Cowboy, which was a Disney film. You can also find things for Annette, Annette Funicello, who was famous for things like the Mickey Mouse Club. And then, of course, she did like all the beach party movies back in the 1960s. Let's talk a little bit about her because she was the Pineapple Princess. They call me Pineapple Princess. Anyways, she had it so a lot of the different movies that she would work on were, or all the different songs that she sang were written specifically by the Sherman Brothers. Now, the Sherman Brothers were the first musical people ever to have a contract with the Disney company. They were also the last people to have a contract with the Disney company specifically for their films. Obviously, if you look at other people like Alan Menken, who's done several different films like Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Home on the Range, and so many other things. He was there along with Howard Ashman in the early ages of the Disney Renaissance to help put this musical theater aspect back into the movies. Now, prior to that, the movies just weren't doing that well. I mean, right before Little Mermaid, we had things like Oliver and Company, which I adore, but a lot of other people just kind of forget about. Fox and the Hound, and then Black Cauldron. I mean, how many people out there know Black Cauldron? I mean, some people might know, Princess Ilau and we from the movie, but besides that, not a lot of people know who that is. In fact, a lot of the different characters that are found in Black Cauldron just kind of have it so they are kind of tossed aside. However, if you were to go to the Magic Kingdom back in the 1980s, specifically the mid 1980s, you would actually find a few different references to the Black Cauldron in the park, specifically in Fantasyland, including in the spot which is now called Friar's Nooks. Originally, that was called Gurgi's Munchies and Crunchies. Now, if you remember the film, he's like Gurgi's Munchies and Crunchies, Munchies and Crunchies, Munchies and Crunchies. So Gurgi's Munchies and Crunchies would be there. It would eventually be replaced by Friar Nooks, which is a reference to the friar from Robin Hood. Now, in addition to Robin Hood being there with that, Robin Hood's also had a part in a few different things around the Disney parks. However, the biggest prominence that they've had in the parks is mainly the meet and greet spots throughout the years. Now, those spots have come and gone throughout the years. However, every now and then you can still find Robin Hood. Every now and then you can still find Little John, but that's about it. Fun fact about Little John, just one of those things that I always think about whenever I talk about Little John, is the fact that if you watch Modern Family, like I used to, there was an episode where they go to Disneyland, and in the thing, we actually see Haley meet up with Little John, who is actually Dylan in disguise as... But anyways, they are right over by the Storybook Canal Boat / Small World during that scene, right around the corner from Mickey's Toontown. Now, Mickey's Toontown was one of those things that had this nice, elaborate storyline that took place when it first opened up. And let's talk a little bit about it because I think it's a very important storyline for us to talk about. So in Disneyland, the idea was one day the people were going through and they stumbled across a hole in the wall. They opened the wall, and then behind this wall was this entire area that Mickey and his friends lived in. The Imagineers, along with the construction people who knocked down the wall, apologized to Mickey, saying, "Mickey, we had no idea this is where you lived. We don't want to, intrude on your spot." And Mickey said, "It's okay, pal. Come on in." And so they would all come in and have it so that entire area was going to be welcome to so many people. So all of a sudden, Mickey's Toontown became a huge hit, and they would also open up Mickey's Toontown Fair over in Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom. Now, that Mickey's Toontown Fair had several different things that I just think are so amazingly cool. Things like Minnie Moo, which was a cow with a moo. It was a cow with a spot on her side that looked like Mickey Mouse. It was a hidden Mickey on a cow. In addition to Minnie Moo, we also had the Barnstormer. We also had things like Meeting Mickey and Minnie inside of the country house. And we also had a few other things found throughout the entire area. But we also were able to get a brand new train station that would take people from this area of the park down to Main Street USA along to Frontierland. Now, if they were going over to Main Street USA, they would be able to take the train from that spot to another spot during the day. However, at night, you would have it so it would be closed up, mainly to the fact that at night they would have Spectrum Magic, which was a parade going on in the area. So because of that, they couldn't have the train going. Now, the Spectrum Magic was actually hosted by the one and only Jiminy Cricket, from Pinocchio. "Hiya, pals, it's me, Jiminy Cricket." Terrible Jiminy Cricket impersonation. But Jiminy Cricket would not only host Spectrum Magic, but he would also host the Wishes firework show. Now, wishes, dream a dream, wishes, set it free, would focus on so many different popular Disney songs, along with several different popular Disney storylines. However, we're not going to talk completely about that. Let's talk a little bit about Tinkerbell flying down from the castle, because Tinkerbell has been flying down from the castle since 1971, when they had the very first ever nighttime show there, which would be Symphony in the Sky. And so with Symphony in the Sky, they would have it so that all these different fireworks were going off along to different tunes around the different parks. And while you're going through and having these different tunes around the parks, they would have it so, it would just kind of engulf the guest on their entire amazing Disney day. We're going to get to the last one here. I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to get there. So, in addition to a few of these things, we had things like Pirates of the Caribbean was played after 1973. Dead men tell no tales. And of course, that attraction would originally open up in 1969 over in Disneyland. So let's talk a little bit about that. We've done a lot of going back and forth between Disneyland and Walt Disney World today, or Magic Kingdom. Those have been our main two stops today. But ignore that. That's not part of the show. So when they would go through on Pirates of the Caribbean, there was not just one, but there was going to be two different drops. But in addition to those drops, there were a few different things inside the attraction, which most people go by and they don't really realize what's in front of them. Now, first off, there are these rumors going around that all of these skeletons that are found inside of Pirates of the Caribbean are real skeletons. It's kind of true. Not all of it's true, but originally they did have a lot of real skeletons in there, and then eventually some of them were deteriorating. They weren't working very well, but there is still one very real skeleton that can be found on the attraction. If you're going through the first room on the left-hand side, there is a bed. At the back of the bed, on the bedpost, there is a skull and crossbones. The skull is actually a human skull, like an actual human skull. Like that would be like, hey, that's Brent Dodge right there. That's how I want to go out. I want to. So after I pass away, someone just puts me on Pirates of the Caribbean, and I can hang out there the rest of my life or afterlife. So I don't know how we're going to get to the next one here. I do know how we're going to get to the next one. So going from Pirates of the Caribbean, when they would eventually open up when they would start filming the movies Pirates of the Caribbean, they would have it so there was going to be these different things going on to promote the films. One of the things that Disney did was they set up a thing over in Disney's Hollywood Studios to promote these different films. So they had things like they had like a walkthrough area where you could go through and you could actually see parts of the set and parts of the prop department from Pirates of the Caribbean. They also did the thing for Haunted Mansion, the movie with Eddie Murphy. They also did it with 101 Dalmatians. They also did one for High School Musical at one point. Now, High School Musical would be a huge, huge success for the Disney Channel. It was actually the highest or the most watched movie, original movie, not just for Disney, but any original movie made specifically for a camera or for a cable show of all time. It was that big. This was right around the same time when they had all these different musical hits popping up out of the Disney Channel. They had things like that. They also had things like Hannah Montana, who had the best of both worlds. And finally, we'll get to this is going to be our last one. I said the last one's going to be our last one, but this is going to be our last one to Oswald. So Hannah Montana would go through so many different changes throughout the years, but one of my favorite things about Hannah Montana would be the fact that she did get her own movie where we had The Climb. Now, in The Climb, the first time that they ever performed The Climb live to any studio audience was actually at the D23 Expo in 2009. I was lucky enough to be in the room to watch Miley Cyrus herself go out there and perform The Climb in front of all the different people. But that's not the thing that we're going to go through. No, this is the last one. This is the last one. This is going to be the last one that we're going to right here. So no more, please. Unless we got more subscribers. So we get more subscribers. Oh, we did. Okay, never mind. We'll do one more. So we're going Hannah Montana to Oswald the Lucky Rabbit to the Castle's birthday cake. Let me just get another drink here. So in 2009, they would go through and have so many different things at the original D23 Expo. And one of the things they would actually talk about was things like the recent acquisition of Marvel Comics, which was like a huge deal at that point. I knew nothing about Marvel at this point, and I still went to the presentation because I was like, you know what? If Disney's going to own them, I better get to know what Marvel is. And by golly, it was actually a really good presentation. Still wasn't completely sold, but then a few months later, Eric, who says, oops, I think I did it again. Eric got me really hooked on the Marvel movies. But anyways, that's completely besides the point. In addition to that, during the thing was the first time that they had a public appearance or a public conference talking about the history of one Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Now, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, of course, originally debuted with the Disney Company back in 1927 a year before Mickey Mouse. He would go on and star in 26 different short cartoons, each one of them extremely popular. And then eventually NBC/Universal would steal him, and they would, send him to other things because they had the distribution rights. So they said, "Ha, we're going to take him and we're going to send him off to someplace else." So the entire Walt Disney Company was very sad. But eventually, in 2008, Disney would have it so they would acquire Oswald the Lucky Rabbit once again, and they would own him because of a trade with Michael Jacobs, or no, L. Michaels. Michael Jacobs, the guy who did Dinosaurs and Boy Meets World. L. Michaels, a completely different person, was the sports announcer for Monday Night Football with John Madden. EA Sports. You're in the game. It's in the game, not you're in the game. I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to get to this last one here. So when they would go through this accusation, I said it right that time. They weren't really sure exactly how they were going to go through and create. I know how to get there. And have it so they would use Oswald the Lucky Rabbit once again in the Disney family. There were a few different things that they had out there that they were thinking about doing, but they weren't completely sure on how to do it. But since then, we've gotten a few little short cartoons that are each about a minute, maybe 2 minutes long. We also had it so Oswald the Lucky Rabbit became pretty popular in 2010 when we had Epic Mickey come out. Now, Epic Mickey was a video game series that was made for the Wii. I loved it. I still have it. It's right over there. I haven't played it for a long time, but I really enjoyed the game. And when you went through and played Epic Mickey, you would go through all these different weird worlds that would belong to Disney, things like a kind of Haunted Mansion theme, a kind of a Big Thunder Mountain Rail theme. And one of the ones was you would go through and you would see the castle, but it was not just regular Cinderella Castle. It was the castle as a birthday cake. And that, my friends, is a game of connect the dots. Yeah. Oh, you know what I should do? I told my friend this earlier today, and I said, I don't know if people would think I'm bragging if I did this, but we're going to do it right now. Can you spot the difference? It's the Disney Encyclopedia, the official one. This is about a third of the size of the Dino Land book. No, that would be crazy if that's what it was. Okay, but we are going to wrap up this episode of the Wednesday show right here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. As always, tonight's episode is sponsored by Patreon pals. I don't know what that is tonight, but that's what it is. If you're one of our Patreon pals out in the chat room, give us an oh, yeah. Okay, thank you, everyone, for joining us. I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. And keep on spreading the word about the Wednesday show and from Screen to Theme. Invite anyone and everyone to join their groups on YouTube and over on Facebook. Let's keep on growing. Let's keep on showing. Right now is currently they're doing the preview cruise for the media for the Disney Treasure. And I'm not there. So my goal is for the next cruise, I will be on that ship. Mark my words. We're going to make sure that I get on that ship. Keep on watching out because I think this week we will be releasing the cover art for the new book, along with the story behind the cover art, which is a really cool story. Like, it's a really, really cool story that I'm extremely excited to share. If you're one of my Patreon pals, you will get the story before anyone else does. Just keep on watching the Facebook group for that. But yeah, we have it's gonna be a fun, exciting, upcoming few weeks here with new books and new artwork and all that other fun stuff. So keep on watching out. As always, remember that anything can happen if you let it. Until next time, have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye. Goodbye now. Goodbye. Goodbye now. Goodbye. Bye-bye. Goodbye now. Are they gone? Are they gone? Oh, good. My Jesus can't stand this kind of pressure. Germany.